I'm just going to read about a 6-minute segment of the book, and I'll just set it up briefly. The book is about, it's really, it's narrated by this woman, and she's kind of falling apart. It's a crisis year, and she has several things going on that are contributing to the crisis. One is that she has a brother, her older brother, her primary sort of family relationship, and he's having his own breakdown of sorts. And he has had created a sort of fantasy successful life as a musician that's become very elaborate. And she's his primary audience. Her mother is losing her memory, and she's the primary caregiver to the mother. And her daughter is actually doing pretty well. But she's sort of developing a kind of porousness that's overwhelming her as the book begins. And the section I'm going to read is that it's her 47th birthday, and she's just gone to visit her mother, who, as I said, is losing her memory. And I think that's really all you need to know. She's about to go, she lives in Los Angeles, and she's going to drive to work now, and she's having a little crisis. And the brother's name is Nick, and the daughter's name is Ada. Oh, and she didn't remember, her mother remembered this birthday cake that she had forgotten, and so she's worried about that when this section begins. These very ordinary memory failings gathered weight and had grown into a quiet but desperate obsession over the last few months. I started to take note of them right after we finally got my mother's official diagnosis. The official diagnosis. Her doctor said she had age-related cognitive decline, also called mild cognitive impairment, very common for a person in her 70s, and that this was no longer called senility, which really just means oldness. Eventually, it would probably become mild dementia, and then full-blown dementia, which is a kind of scary-sounding word that simply means the mind is going away. So you have to specify age-related dementia instead of, say, drug-induced dementia. My mother exhibited significant early symptoms of age-related dementia, including but not limited to advancing episodic memory impairment and disorientation. Very commonplace, he said, which is supposed to be a comfort. When pressed, he also remarked that her decline was most certainly progressive. But everything was progressive, clearly. Did we actually think our memory had any stasis, that it wasn't constantly melting away? After that, I began to find her troubling to be around for all the obvious emotional reasons. But I also had a growing worry that her lapses were somehow contagious. I had no rational basis for this anxiety. Clearly, her brain was distinct from my own brain. I also knew I was probably avoiding a more frightening mortal anxiety by substituting a slightly more manageable one, but the traffic was gone now. I still had a 45-minute commute to work. I didn't have the heart to listen to the memory book, the self-help book. I pretended I had bought the stupid book to help my mother, but I knew I was really buying it to appease my paranoia about my own mental deterioration. Maybe just owning it would be enough, and I wouldn't actually have to listen to it. Then, out of nowhere, randomly, I had a memory crisis, a mental meltdown over a seemingly insignificant piece of information that I tried to recall. I don't know what led me to try and retrieve this particular piece of trivia, because I don't remember. But there I was, floundering as I drove, sweating even, chewing hard on an herbal, soon-to-be flavorless piece of gum. This sort of memory slip was all too typical of my brain these days. Sometimes basic words of familiar vocabulary hid behind missing letters. I would run through the alphabet, hoping I would get the right sound by process of elimination. More often, a name I knew refused to come to me. I constantly had this sense of information on the verge, precision at the margin, vision just beyond the frame. Not like Mom, not remembering what I was trying to remember. This was not remembering what I sort of merely recalled. It was like a glitch, like a scratch on a record. I even hit my head occasionally to get the needle to jump to the next place. I knew somehow moving forward was often the best way to remember what came before. Looking at a thing directly didn't work. I also knew trying so hard just caused surges of stress-induced cortisol to shut down my hippocampus, sealing off access to my long-term memory. Still, this time I was trying to think of a movie actress's name. I came up with Mamie Van Doren. And I knew that was not who I was trying to think of. I was trying to think of another blonde actress, one much more famous than Mamie Van Doren. I thought about her, this actress with the out-of-reach name, and how she was decapitated in a tragic Cadillac accident. I thought of her famous custom-made heart-shaped swimming pool. Yes, anyone would have it now, but not me. Marilyn Monroe was at the other end of the bombshell spectrum. This actress was ersatz Marilyn, and Mamie Van Doren was ersatz her, ersatz. I saw her face, her little nose, her chalky pink lips, her enormous breasts. Enormous in the old way, fleshy mounds that attached to the whole chest, Anita Ekberg oceanic flesh that might drown a man, instead of the modern style augmented, separate, two high globes with a huge, lonely valley between them, carved breasts that seem to exist almost in a different world from the body they are attached to. But how could I assess the pertinent advantages of real versus fake enormous breasts? Maybe men like that hard valley. Maybe they like the delineated order of the implanted artificial breast. I could not think of her name. My mother would get that vague, anxious look as she realized she was searching for something that wasn't there, and then she would forget it, the forgetting, and move on. She just let things go without a fight, and then she was on to the next thing waiting to be forgotten. I could not let go. I started to talk aloud. I shouted, "What the hell is her name?" sending the now flavorless gum flying out of my mouth. I retrieved the gum with a tissue as I tried not to swerve the card. And then I began to recite the outlines of the memory as if I were pleading a case to the dementia police. I can't be losing my memory because I can think of Mamie Van Doren, I can think of the breasts of this poor unnamed actress, I can think of her method of death, for God's sakes, I can think of a stupid movie she was in with Tom Yule. I can think of Tom Yule. I have clearly an excellent memory. It was merely a glitch. Then I tried to do some lateral move, to think of something else, but really moving on when you're more or less still assigning a portion of your brain this elusive memory task. It fooled no one. Ada would say, "Just look it up, Mom." But that was easy for her and her young, elastic, fearless brain. I wouldn't. I wouldn't look it up on the Internet Movie Database or Wikipedia or anywhere else. Ada doesn't understand why I need to remember every random piece of nonsense. It is almost as if she believes the internet will be her memory. I want to warn her. I've been through this with photographs. It just isn't the same as actually remembering. I see her point about cluttering your brain with easily looked up trivia, but there are other things I need to remember, things not found on Wikipedia. I want to remember my mother before she was sick. I want to remember what Ada smelled like when she was a baby, and I want to remember when I began to suspect things weren't okay with Nick. I want some accounting for my own behavior, and I want the future to have some clarity. I need my memory for all of that to occur. That is why incidents like this one were so critical. If I couldn't think on my own of this actress's name, I had no hope for any of the rest of it. So I used calm focus. I inhaled and exhaled. I was so close, I felt it. It was almost there. It was like a brain orgasm, the anticipatory sensation I was feeling, a kind of building. Then I got Anna Nicole Smith. And I couldn't stop thinking of her hard little eyes and her little doll nose and the same chalky pink lipstick, but it wasn't Anna Nicole Smith, of course. And now I was stuck again, the closeness receding. I had a name, Mamie Van Doren, and a face, the pudgy, pretty face of Anna Nicole Smith, but I was further than ever from my actress. In fact, I had to keep pushing these other people off my mind. The only way out of this very frustrating trap was to look it up. Defeat, yes, but peace. I took another deep breath. Damn it. Okay, one last recap. Tom Yule, Cadillac, decapitated, pool, lips, breasts. Then I saw it. The book with the black and white photographs. Yes, the picture of her and her breasts. Yes, closer. Yes, no Mamie, no Marilyn, no Anna, no, but man, yes, yes. Man, I can even see the covered stretcher in the photos she's taken from the scene of Jane Mansfield. Jane Mansfield, Jane goddamn Mansfield. Yes, yes, yes. So there, happy birthday. It was in there somewhere, all of it, memory of a photo of a woman, and indexed in synapses and dendrites, a name.